Welcome to Salesforce Break. I was asked to do a ScreenFlow presentation for one of the Albany Salesforce developers Trailblazer group meetings. And for that meeting, I prepared a ScreenFlow solution that included two custom objects, one for a loan and another one for payments. And under the loan, we can have several payments that go towards the loan. It's a zero interest loan solution, a simplified solution. And it is a more advanced solution from the perspective of looping. So what I am doing inside the ScreenFlow to update is to go through all the payments that have not been processed yet and sum up the total payment amount, count all the payments, and update those payments to the loan object record. But as I add more payments toward the loan, I chose not to use a record triggered flow. The user has to run this process manually using the ScreenFlow. I can run this process again, and next time I run it, it's just going to process the unprocessed payments and calculate the new totals. And again, from a loop perspective, it is also very efficient because I'm doing all my updates outside the loop using a record collection variable. Let's dive into this solution, shall we? And I forgot to mention the best part. Whenever I got the chance, I built everything using some of the brand new functionality that came with Summer 21. That's not even out yet. This is my Summer 21 preview instance. And that's where I built my flows to show you some of the brand new stuff. Now let's start with the functionality that I have built. So I have two objects, loans and payments, right? And before I go into that functionality, let me show you the Schema Builder. Some of you know that I like using the Schema Builder to explain the data model. So you can see that I have a loan object and a payment for loan object. And the payment for loan has a lookup to the loan and lookup to the account. The loan has a master detail to the account. So the contact is not involved. The contact is under the account, but the loan itself has a master detail to the account. So what did I do here? I created a loan object, and the loan object, as you can see, has fields for loan status, loan amount, payment total count, remaining balance, and last payment update date. Now some of these fields are going to be updated automatically throughout this process, and then I can have payments, and these payments can be associated with the account and the loan, and the payment type can be specified as cash, check, and so on. And if we choose other as payment type, we'd expect this other payment type to be also entered. There's a payment date and payment amount, and there's a process checkbox. This doesn't really need to be on the page layout. It is a checkbox that I'm using in my flow. So let's see how that functionality works. If I go to, first of all, if I go to my loans and I pick one of the loans here, This is a loan for Dickinson PLC. You can see it's active, and the loan amount is $500,000. So nothing here has been calculated yet. This is all the information we have for this loan at this point. Now we can enter payments toward this loan here, which we have one here. And this payment here is by credit card, and $9,000 has been paid. And you can see this payment has not been processed yet. So say we want to process this payment, and all this process for the account happens on the account page. So on the account lightning page, I dropped a flow on the right side that says, please proceed to the next screen to update the loan and payment records for this account. There are several ways I can get a screen flow started. For this project, I chose to include it on my lightning page. And let's look at that for a second and how this is done. To achieve that, I would have to go here and drop a flow component where would I want it on the page. It can be on a different tab, it can be on several different components. I dropped it here, and whenever I do that, I get a bunch of parameters that I need to choose. This is a drop down where all the active screen flows are going to be listed. So this is a flow called update account, loan and payment, and it's going to be displayed in one column. And we used to have to remember the syntax. If the flow has an input variable, I can pass the record ID to that input. But I had to actually remember the syntax and enter this here by myself. I don't have to do that anymore. That came, I guess, as part of the last release, as far as I can remember. So I can check this box to say pass the record ID into this variable, and this flow is going to auto run whenever I load this record page. So to process all the payments, I would have to go here, and this is going to show me the total payments that have been made under this loan and the count for those payments, in this case it's 1, and it gives me an easy way to update critical information about the account. For example, I can change the account name here. It's already pre-filled, and I can say this account is current and mark it as current, and then hit next. And when I do that, it's going to say all record updates completed successfully on my flow. So if I go to my account details, I'm going to see this time that the account name has been changed now to Dickinson. There's no PLC. And now we are going to also see on the pick list field that this account is current. It's over here. And we are going to also do updates on the related loan and payments. Screen flows are great if you need to do updates on several object records at the same time. So let's go to the related loan. And when I go to the related loan, if you remember, we looked at this before and it was not processed yet. Now the loan amount is still there, but the payment amount is $9,000, and there is one payment that has been made toward the loan, and now the remaining balance is $491,000, and the last payment update date is actually date and time of just exactly a minute ago. So everything is fine. Now I have also another simple flow running on the loan page that says click to enter a new payment. So I can actually enter a new payment here directly. So let's say this person made another payment of $200,000. Now, if I want to make sure that I get clean data into my Salesforce instance, I use validations. I've done that. Let's see if the payment amount of 200,000 is acceptable. So whenever I do that, I'm going to get an error message saying a payment can only be between $0 and $10,000. So I have to change this amount. Let's make this $8,000 and hit next. Now a new payment record has been added. If I go to my related payments list, I'm going to see that a payment record number 11 has been entered here for $8,000, but it's not processed yet. So if I go to my loan, I'm on the loan. If I go to my account, no, this is the payment. If I go, let's go up to the loan. So if I go to my loan, it only sees a $9,000 payment and only one payment as a total count. So I can go up to my account and then start the processing again. And now my flow found a total of $17,000 in payments and 2 payments. I can again update here the account fields if necessary. Let's say these payments did not meet my expectations, so I want to follow up on this account. And now everything has been updated. And I go to my loan. And I see now $17,000 and 2 payments have been processed, and the remaining balance is $483K. And the update date and time is again the time of a minute ago right now. So let's go to our flow, see how we have done this. I have 2 flows for this. One, the simple enter a new payment loan record flow. Let me walk you through this. So this flow is going to accept a variable, and this variable is going to be the loan ID. To do that, I need to create a loan ID variable, and I need to mark it available for input. So this is the variable that grabs the record ID from the landing page. So then I have the screen where I have just a static message. The reason why I'm doing that is whenever you're running a flow, every time a record page is loaded, you don't want to dive into a loop or something like that, because it's going to probably slow down your system or cause issues. So unless somebody really needs to go through this process, this flow just sits on the screen. Once the user hits next, then you get this input screen, payment amount, payment date, and pick list. Now the cool thing that came with Summer 21 is the fact that we can now have these pick lists, right? And in the pick list, within the pick list component, we can actually choose whether we want a pick list or radio button. We don't have to delete when we change our minds and then put the new component on. And we can also pick a default value that can be assigned from a get field value, for example. This was incredibly difficult before. Another new functionality, just cosmetic but it's quite meaningful, is when I set up component visibility, which I have done here, I'm hiding the other payment type text input. If the payment type pick list is not other, I'll only show that if payment type pick list is other, and I can see that here, condition here, and at the same time I can see visually on my screen with this logo over here, I logo, that there is a conditional visibility condition entered for that component. So, and then we go to get loan. The reason why we get loan is we actually want to use the account on the loan, account ID. So the account is assigned to the account ID over here for the loan. And we want to also assign our screen component values to all the fields that are available on the loan object record. So such as the payment amount, payment date, payment type, and other payment type fields. And once we do all of our assignments, we create the payment record, and then we display a success screen. So this one is that simple. It's not that complicated, right? So once we go to the other flow, you're gonna see that that one gets a little bit more complicated. So again, in this flow we have to also set up a variable and our variable here, our variables are here. Our variable here is going to be account ID that's marked available for input. So the record ID of the record we are displaying on the screen on our Lightning page is going to be passed to this variable. So again, I'm showing an intro screen, which is even more important here because this has a loop, gets and loops in it. And I'm getting my account ID. I'm getting my account record using the account ID. I'm checking whether I found the account record or not and going to an error screen just in case. In this case, that should never happen because I'm actually running this off of a Lightning page. But if I'm debugging this and I enter some invalid ID, then I could end up on that screen. So if the account from get account is not null, then I'm proceeding and I'm getting this time the loan record for the account. Now I also have an extra condition here. The loan has to be open, so I'm excluding the loan status closed. So I am checking whether the loan from the get loan step is not null or not. So if I found a loan, then I'm going to get the payments for that loan. I want to do an initial check and make sure that I have actually payments for that loan. If I don't have any payments, then I want to go down this path. If there are payments available, then I'm going to get all the payment records. This time I'm going to store all records that are not processed. So I'm getting all the unprocessed records. And I'm going to loop through them and sum up all the values, right? But I have actually two scenarios. It could just be that I have payments, but I don't have any unprocessed payments left, right? So, or it could just be that I have 5 payments, but 3 of them are already processed and the other 2 are not processed yet. So that's why I have to initialize my totals first. I'm going to assign the payment count and the payment total that has been written to the loan record before, to my total variables. And then I'm going to sum up all the unprocessed payments and then add those payments and their count to these numbers. And to do that, and to make sure that I don't do any updates to the process checkbox for the payments inside the loop, I have to create 2 resources. That's how the loops work. I have to create on the left side a record variable for payments, payment record variable, and I have to create a payment record collection variable. So what I'm going to do is, these are my containers where I'm going to keep all the modified and updated field values, and in the end I'm going to do my updates outside loop right down here. So for that, I go here and I assign initially first the current payment from the loop. I assign to my payment record variable. So all the field values are going to be transferred to the payment record variable. Then I'm going to I'm going to add 1 to the payment count variable, and I'm going to also add the payment amount from the current payment record on the loop. I'm going to add this number to the payment total amount variable. And I'm going to set the payment record variable is processed to true, because I processed that payment now. Now, please remember, if I have already some payments that I have processed before by running the flow before at an earlier date, then I already have some values in my payment count variable and payment total amount variable that came from the loan record, and I initialized the total and count with those values already. So I'm adding the unprocessed values on top of what I already have and setting the process to true. Now that I have one updated payment record in my payment record variable, it's a container, I'm going to add that, let's say, to a tray, right? To a bigger container that can have n number of different payments, that can hold multiple payment records. So I'm going to take that payment record variable and I'm going to add it to my payment record collection variable. So by looping through this, if I have let's say 2 unprocessed payments, I just created 2 unique payment record variables and I have added them to a collection. And when I go out of my loop, now I can update my accounts. First display the totals, right, on the screen, and then ask the user whether they have anything else to update on the account. Those are those fields. We're going to come back to that just a second. And so assign the remaining balance by doing a mathematical calculation to be assigned to the account. First, update the account. Now the account has been updated by just updating the status and account name. And I am going to update my payments. My payments can simply be updated by sending the record collection variable directly to the my update element. And I want to also update loan. And I want to update loan by assigning the current date and time to last payment update date, payment total amount, and payment total count, and also the remaining balance I have calculated like using that assignment step with a mathematical calculation that is going to be assigned also to the loan. And that's the end of my flow here. And what do we have here as a catch-all error step? I'm catching all those and I'm sending those down to just a simple screen. I could have differentiated my screen, but it is just going to say no open loan exists and or no payment records exist for this account. So this screen is going to display. So let's go very briefly to my screen element though. I want to show you a couple of cool things that came with Summer 21. Fantastic improvements. Now here, as I was asking the user to update some values on the account and to display also some calculation values that I have, I used the brand new section component. Now this was made available in beta before, now it's GA. So before all this came along, we were not able to use multiple columns on the screen, so it was very hard to format things, and when you had a wide screen things looked silly. Now I can actually have here, as you can see, I have one section and I have these display text elements. This one shows just a static text and this one shows static text plus the values I have in my variables in a 2-column format. This is inside the section, and the section can be used to display 2 half-width columns. You can change that configuration here. And then I have another display text component here for header that's not a section in columns. And then I have another section in columns where I have my data input components. For this one is for account name, so it's a text input, and this one is a pick list again. And I am setting the values for the default values for these fields to the values that I'm getting from the account record. So you saw that in action before, so I'm going to see the account name here to be modified by the user, and then the pick list I have also set to the value that was selected by the user before and saved on the record, which was extremely difficult before. We just built silly workarounds that didn't work very well and we spent hours on it. We just need to enter the field value from the get step in here, and that's done. It's fantastic. And I'm using an account pick list choice set to display all the valid choices. You can even do multi-select right in this component without getting out. It's great. And the pick list component that we used before was kind of always required. You couldn't make it optional. So now require and optional works well. So that's great. So this is our flow for this use case. Now, what this flow includes, it is complicated, harder to understand than most loops, but it is done from a performance standpoint and a governance limit standpoint. It is done just perfect. This is not going to give you any trouble or headache. It is very efficient. All the get get elements and the update elements are outside the loop. As you can see, there are only assignments inside the loop. And on top of that, I'm not even looping through all the payments every time I'm processing. I'm only looping through the payments that have been entered since last time. And that also is another point that will give me speed and efficiency. Enjoy.